170 needed for the nomination. In California, we are now estimating that Al Gore will receive 263 of those Democratic delegates. Bill Bradley will receive 73. And we are also saying that with the California Republican race going towards the primary race going for George W. Bush, those 162 California Republican delegates, of course, will be added to the George Bush column. Back to you, Bernie.
Thank you. Wolf Blitzer.
Giving Bush, what, about 620 delegates by rough count.
And this is where the calendar...
You add 160 to 460, and at this point, you only need a little over 1,000.
And next week comes comes Florida and Texas and those southern states, and those numbers begin to look very grim for John McCain.
They already do.
Yeah, just very quickly on Prop 22 that bans same-sex marriage. John McCain, Alan Keyes supported it. Governor Bush did not take a position. And, of course, on the Democratic side, Vice President Gore and Senator Bradley were against it. But it has passed tonight.
And we were looking at that earlier, and what that was an amendment to the so-called family code in the state of California, which, Jeff, we were discussing is on the a statute on the books in the state of California.
Right. You know, as you all know, California has one of these ballots that is the length of a football field almost, because anybody with enough petitions puts things on the ballot. They can amend the statutes, they can amend the state constitution, and in this case, the Democrats said, no, we think this is just a political move, and that's what happened.
And strategically, one of the reasons why supporters of Prop 22, which bans same-sex marriages, fought to have it pass was California did not want people of the same sex who were married in another state coming into California, forcing the state of California to recognize that union.
That's right. For more on California and other important issues, we go to Bill Schneider for some exit poll numbers. Bill.
And we have some exit poll numbers in California where, for the first time this evening, we have a good sample of Hispanic voters who have been very important for George Bush. How did he do among Hispanic voters? Well, he came in second. Al Gore got a majority of them. Remember, this is an all-party primary. Anybody can vote for anyone. Bush got 18%. He beat McCain among Hispanic voters in California. That's a respectable showing, given the fact that most Hispanics have always voted for the Democratic candidate. We also asked the voters in California, including the Hispanic voters, how they would vote in a hypothetical matchup, which now looks more and more like the real matchup between Al Gore, the Democrat, and George Bush as the Republican, with no other candidate on the ballot. Gore would get 2/3 of the vote, 67%. Bush would get 29. 29% is a respectable showing. It's hardly a record. Hispanics did vote at one time as much as 40% for Ronald Reagan, but 29%, just under 30% for George Bush would be a pretty good showing, and he intends to build on that with a campaign that's aimed a lot at Hispanic voters. We also looked at Proposition 22, the measure that passed tonight that banned the recognition of same-sex marriage. There we found a big differential. Young voters in California did not vote for this. Only 42% did. Most young voters under the age of 30 voted against this ban. It was among the voters who were 60 years old and older. 70% of those voters voted for the ban. There was a very big generational difference in their view of same-sex marriage. We found that 70% of Hispanic voters voted for the ban on same-sex marriages. Now, that's important because Hispanic voters are often portrayed correctly as having conservative social values, which could bring a lot of them to vote Republican. And that's what George Bush and a lot of Republicans are counting on, and we see evidence of it today in California. 70% voted to ban same-sex marriages. Finally, on Proposition 22, this was a war between the gay community and the religious right community, and what did we find? 86% of gay voters in California voted no on Proposition 22, against the ban, and guess what? 86% of religious right voters voted yes on Proposition 22. 86 no, 86 yes. You don't get more polarized than that. Unfortunately for the gay community in California, there are twice as many religious right voters as there are gay voters.
Thank you, Bill. Those are probably two of the least surprising numbers we'll hear all night. We want to go now to John King with the McCain campaign in Los Angeles. We understand, John, the senator may come out and address his supporters shortly.
That's right, Jeff. Senator McCain due here in about 10 minutes. We know he just a few moments ago wrapped up a call with Governor Bush. We're told it was a very brief conversation. Senator McCain congratulated Governor Bush on his victories tonight. did not say anything about his future. In his speech, we're told Senator McCain will promote his reform agenda and promise his supporters that his crusade will continue. But he will leave what one aide called, quote, strategic ambiguity as to whether his campaign will continue. This advisor said tonight's delegate math is, quote, devastating, and that he expects, and another advisor echoed this, for Senator McCain to leave the race on Thursday. And on the Democratic side, I just want to tell you, spoke to a Democratic congressman aligned with Bill Bradley just a short time ago, who said he had been told Senator Bradley would leave the race within the next 48 hours. So it appears that March 7th is living up to its billing as the decisive night in the race for president. Back to you.
Thank you. Governor Bush is addressing his supporters on what was a very good night for him.
Phyllis, thank you very much. Thank you for your dedication to our children. And thank you for doing one of the most important jobs in our state and our country, and that's being a great educator. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you all are here. God bless you all, and thank you for coming. Tonight we have good news from sea to shining sea. We were challenged, and we met the challenge. We were tested, and we were equal to the test. We promised a national campaign, and tonight we have a national victory. Republicans and conservatives from all across the country have said they want me to lead the Republican Party to victory in November, and I am ready and I am eager to do so. I commend two good men and tough competitors, Senator John McCain and Ambassador Alan Keyes. This has been a spirited contest. I congratulate John. We've had our disagreements, but I respect him, and I respect his commitment to reform. I respect Alan Keyes for the deep convictions he has held in his campaign. Soon our party will unite and turn to the main task at hand, ending the era of Clinton Gore. Tonight's victory is a test.
Moratorium now! No justice, no peace. Moratorium now!
Tonight's victory is a.
Moratorium now!
Tonight's victory is a testimony. Tonight's victory is a testimony to the power and energy of a new message, a message of reform and renewal called compassionate conservatism. Tonight's victory is also the beginning of a great task. I'm not only asking Americans to vote for me, I'm asking Americans to join with me on a mission to reform and renew our great land. From the first day, this campaign has had a cause, a vision of change for our party and our country. Republicans must expand our prosperity and extend it to those who still struggle. We must also be a strong nation that cares for the weak and the forgotten. We must welcome new Americans, Americans by choice, because legal immigration is not a source of national weakness. It is a sign of national success. We are a party of principle. We also must be a party of inclusion, a party with a generous heart and an open door. Tonight in the other party, Al Gore is celebrating victory as well. I congratulate him and look forward to the contest. He is the candidate of the status quo in Washington, D.C. And he's a tough case to make. He's got a tough case to make in the general election. For 8 years, Clinton-Gore administration has had history's greatest opportunity to reform Social Security with a growing surplus and a willing public. But they've chosen to demagogue Social Security, not repair it. America needs a president who will make Social Security a priority, not use it as a ploy. As president, I will reach across party lines to strengthen and preserve Social Security, not only for our greatest generation, but also for the generation next. For 8 years, the Clinton and Gore administration has multiplied the missions of our military while cutting its capabilities. As president, I will rebuild the strength of our military and the prestige and stature of America. We will give the men and women in uniform the equipment they need and the respect they deserve. For 8 years, the Clinton-Gore administration has spoken of education as a matter of bricks and mortar and bureaucratic mandates. But the real problem in education is politicians who never stop talking and children who never start reading. For the first time in decades, we are going to dramatically improve the performance of our public schools in America. As president, I'm going to rescue children from failure and return excellence to American education through high standards, local control, and strong accountability. After 8 years of Clinton-Gore, we have the highest tax burden since World War II. And yet we are told taxes are not an issue. Not an issue while many families are punished by the tax code just for being families. Not an issue while single mothers can pay a higher marginal rate than the prosperous. This is an issue for Americans, and it will be an issue in this campaign. I will take down the toll gate to the road on the middle class. And I will cut taxes for everybody who pays taxes, because the surplus is not the government's money. The surplus is the people's money. The polls say cutting taxes is not popular. I'm not proposing tax relief because it's the popular thing to do. I'm proposing tax relief because it's the right thing to do. I will stand on principle, and I will bring honor to this process and honor to the office I seek. I will remind Al Gore that Americans do not want a White House where there is no controlling legal authority. I will repair the broken bonds of trust between Americans and their government. These are some of the issues I will raise during this campaign. We need to put behind us 8 years of nightly polls and daily attacks. 8 years of partisanship, gridlock, and division. 8 years is a long time, and 8 years is long enough.
Exiled down to the White House. Next sentence.
This is it.
We are ready, and I believe this great country of ours is ready to return exiled honor to the White House.
You know, the text of this speech that the governor's concluding now really constitutes a national campaign playbook.
No doubt.
That's right.
I think you've heard the basic theme of the Bush attack on Al Gore. You remember I asked a while ago, how do you run against a vice president who helped preside over a very strong economy and good social indicators? Here's the answer. What they're saying is Al Gore is mired in the past. He's not taken advantage of these good times, he and Bill Clinton, to change things for the better, and he represents a White House that has coarsened the national fabric. I mean, it's a very bold attack along the lines that, in fact, Bill Bradley would have used if a fellow Democrat could have made this stuff an attack on another Democrat.
And in fact, just quickly, Al Gore in his speech tonight not only said, do you want to go back to the economics of the last administration, which was Governor Bush's father, George Bush, but also he talked about campaign finance reform. I've learned from my mistakes, and he called on the Republican nominee to reject soft money. All things that we're going to be talking about. Let's go now to John McCain, who is talking to his supporters in Los Angeles, making his way now in a room full of his supporters on a night that has surely been, he's seen some successes in New England, but has not been the night of successes that he would have wanted.
You know, Judy, just to pick up on what you were saying before we hear Senator McCain, when you talk about Al Gore setting down a set of issues and George Bush talking about issues, but then talking about a broader concern, the honor and the status quo. One of Bush's advisors said,
yes, I can talk to you,
that if issues were what mattered, Gore would be doing much better.
I'm here, Rick.
So they don't think that issues matter. Let's go to John King now in Los Angeles as we await Senator McCain. John?
Jeff, we have seen an advanced text of the senator's speech here. He congratulates Governor Bush, says he will take a few days to take stock of his wins tonight, but also his defeats. You will see in the first paragraph of the speech, the senator makes clear he's not sure he's in this race to stay. He says, quote, we may meet again in primaries a few days from now. We may meet again. We're told by senior McCain advisors he spoke to the governor a short time ago and that he wants to go home now to Arizona. But one of these advisors told us just a few minutes ago the delegate math is, quote, devastating, and it's hard to see a rationale for going on. Senator McCain here arriving up at the podium about to speak to his supporters. He had been hoping And his last hope tonight really is to try to outpoll Governor Bush here in the beauty contest. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for your wonderful welcome. Thank you. I know you all know my family. I thank you all for being here and welcoming them. You know, we ride a bus called the Straight Talk Express, so I have to tell you a little straight talk. We made a tactical decision that Cindy would go to Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and to Burlington, Vermont, and I would go to Maine. Well, we won Burlington, Vermont, and Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and lost Maine. Now, you figured out who the best candidate was in this campaign, huh? Everybody said to me, why isn't she the candidate? Excellent. Cindy. My friends, we won a few and lost a few today. And over the next few days, we'll take some time to enjoy our victories and take stock of our losses. I want to congratulate Governor Bush and his family and wish him well as he takes time to enjoy the victories that he won tonight. We may meet again in primaries in a few days from now, and we have both earned a little rest. Tomorrow we'll take a little time to reflect on the direction of our campaign. But I want to assure you all that our crusade continues tonight, tomorrow, the next day. Our crusade continues tonight, tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, and for as long as it takes to restore America's confidence and pride in the practice and institutions of our great democracy. We will never give up this mission, my friends. I give you my word on that, for that's the great purpose of public service, and we must never, never lose sight of it. As is evident by the great number of voters who have rallied to our banner, so many of whom have been disaffected by politics in recent times, America needs and wants a thorough reform of the way we conduct our nation's business. And the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Reagan, needs to recover its purpose to be as big as the country we serve. That's the purpose of our campaign. And as I said, I have no intention of ever surrendering it. For that's the only way, my friends, that we can revive the patriotism of all of the people of this beautiful, bountiful, blessed country and call them once again to serve in her great causes. There is no greater satisfaction, nor one that gives our lives greater meaning than to sacrifice in causes greater than our self-interest, causes that encompass us but are not defined by our personal ambitions alone. America stands for something so much greater than the cynicism that sometimes afflict us. We stand, as we always have, for freedom and justice for all humanity. And I am so proud that this message has struck a chord in the hearts of so many Americans of every race, creed, and political persuasion in this vast and diverse country. We have come so far, and we have so many to thank, that my brief remarks cannot do neither subject justice. For now, let me simply say that I thank you from the bottom of my heart, as you should thank yourselves for becoming a powerful force, beckoning the country to service in a very worthy cause. I am grateful and honored and humbled beyond expression for all the support and affection Cindy and I have received from all of you here tonight and from everyone who has rallied to our cause. You are the You are the best thing about our campaign, and I am indebted to all of you for the honor and the great blessing of your friendship. So let's enjoy ourselves this evening, my friends. Celebrate our successes and prepare to get back to work tomorrow. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you.
Arizona Senator John McCain telling his supporters in Los Angeles, we won a few, we lost a few today, and saying that over the next few days he's going to take some time to reassess his campaign. As John King had pointed out before Senator McCain's remarks, he at one point said, we may meet again, referring to Governor Bush, whom he called tonight. We may meet again in primaries a few days from now. But the main thrust of these remarks, Bernie and Jeff and John King, if you're listening there in Los Angeles, was to say, no matter what happens, this mission, I'm committed to this mission for as long as I'm around.
Judy, the confetti drop has become a trademark of McCain events, and this could well be the last one. As you noted, he did say in the speech that he may meet Governor Bush in future primaries. We're told by senior aides, however, that they view tonight's delegate math as quite devastating. They will go back to Arizona to reassess. Two senior advisors telling us they believe it is all but certain the senator will exit the Republican race perhaps as early as Thursday. However, they do want to await all the final results and take one more look at them tomorrow in Arizona. His speech significant for what it didn't say as much as what it did say. Remember the night of the South Carolina primary, Senator McCain was very confrontational about Governor Bush, said that the country had to choose between a candidate of experience or a candidate of pretense. Tonight he was quite conciliatory, congratulating Governor Bush on his victory, and several times as he said thank you to his supporters, it seemed as if he knew that perhaps this was the last hurrah of his campaign.
John, I'm just curious, is there any top strategist in this senator's campaign arguing for him to stay in?
There are some who want him to fight on, who want him to make the stronger case for reform in this race. There are others, some here in California, who don't like Governor Bush, frankly, and think that Governor Bush deserves a longer challenge. Some candidates think it would help to stay on, but most of his advisors say the senator himself sets the tone for the campaign. He has said consistently that he is a loyal Republican, that he does not want to hurt the Republican Party, and that he does not want to stay in unless you can reasonably show him how he might win enough delegates to clinch the nomination. And after tonight's math is clear, it looks very unlikely that he could do so unless there were a total collapse of the Bush campaign. More than 300 delegates at stake next week, all in states in which Governor Bush is heavily favored. Very difficult to see the math. And Senator McCain has made clear he will not stay in the race if he thinks it's hurting the party.
Bill Snyder's watching all this as it unfolds.
Well, Bernie, there's one interesting prospect that's been talked about, and I don't think it's realistic, But some people have mentioned the possibility that John McCain could be the Reform Party candidate. This has been brought up by some leaders of the Reform Party who are dissatisfied with Pat Buchanan. They say he's a real reformer. He could bring in people from both parties. And believe me, he would be a very strong third-party candidate. He has said all along he will not be a Reform Party candidate. He also says he won't be a vice president on the ticket with George Bush. What's interesting here is McCain has said many times his personal hero is President Theodore Roosevelt in the early part of the 20th century. Theodore Roosevelt was president as a Republican. He succeeded William McKinley when McKinley was assassinated and then got elected. And then later in 1912, Theodore Roosevelt did run for president as a third-party candidate called the Bull Moose Progressive Party, and he actually came in second, beating the incumbent Republican president, William Howard Taft. So there's a funny kind of precedent there, but of course the impact of Theodore Roosevelt's candidacy was to split the Republican vote and elect a Democrat, Woodrow Wilson, for the first time in many years. I think John McCain knows that if he were to run on the Reform Party ticket, the greatest likelihood would be that he'd split the Republican vote and end up electing Al Gore.
You know, one thing about, if we're looking at history, one of the positions that John McCain finds himself in is a member of a party challenging his own party. And what history often says is the first member of a party to try to redefine that party's direction doesn't make it. Either loses a general election or doesn't even get the nomination. It took 25 years for the Republican Party to become conservative, from Taft to Goldwater. It took another 15 for the party to actually win. So John McCain may be in that position of being a forerunner who's laying down a challenge that somebody else 4 or 8 years from now may actually succeed in.
Just one quick line, observation about John McCain. He's a man who stands by his word. Vin Weber, former Minnesota congressman and advisor, indicated that John McCain will always live by his word, and he's given his word that he would not bolt the Republican Party.
And once again, just quickly, John McCain underlining tonight, no matter what happens, he's committed to his mission. He said, purpose of our campaign is reform. I have no intention of ever surrendering that mission. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the races we have called, including those just in the last half hour in California. We'll be right back.
Thursday, in a CNN Encore presentation, Christiane Amanpour returns to Iran on a revolutionary journey. CNN Perspectives, Thursday, 10 Eastern on CNN.
Tired of waiting for the internet? It's time to get Intermedia at Home, the revolutionary high-speed internet service that's 100 times faster than typical phone modems. With Intermedia at Home's cable internet technology, you can sail from web page to web page, enjoy full-motion video and rich graphics all in seconds, not minutes like those slow dial-up connections. Join the cable internet revolution today with Intermedia at Home. Call 244-6222 or go to www.home.com for free installation and your first 3 months at only $19.95 per month.
I am special. I need McClure's. I need McClure's. McClure's, Nashville's only true fashion specialty department store. McClure's. McClure's. Charge.
CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
"35 minutes past the hour of 11 on the East Coast, and that makes it 35 minutes past the hour of 8 on the West Coast. Let's take a look now at the races we've called tonight for George Bush. On the Republican side, the Republican primaries, George Bush has won California, the delegate vote, Georgia, Maine, Maryland, Missouri, New York, and Ohio. Still among the Republicans, John McCain sticking to New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Vermont. 2 of those states he pointed out his wife campaigned in. And for the Democrats, it's a clean sweep for the vice president, picking up every state from coast to coast that was on the ballots tonight, from California to New York. A very happy night for the vice president. Not so happy for Bill Bradley. Let's look now to the delegates and to some other crucial questions with Wolf Blitzer at the other end of the studio. Wolf.
Judy, let's take a look first of all at the latest numbers we have for that all-important delegate count. The delegate count, of course, changing with the decision that CNN and other networks have made to call for the elections in California. First of all, on the Democratic side, Al Gore, we now estimate, has 1,294 Democratic delegates out of the 2,170 needed for the nomination. Bill Bradley with only 380 delegates. On the Republican side, nationwide, let's take a look at those numbers. George?
Wolf Blitzer, we are having a hard time hearing you. There's a microphone problem over there. Can somebody give you their microphone so we can hear what you're saying more clearly?
We'll get right back to it.
All right. Wolf Blitzer going over those numbers. You could see, even though we're just on March the 7th, that Al Gore is well over half the way to winning the nomination.
And probably all the way in another day or two. What we want to do while we rehook Wolf Blitzer up is to look at that watch list we've been visiting from time to time and show you how these questions were answered on the Republican side. Did the religious right turn out? Yes, it did, and it voted heavily for George Bush. Did McCain fulfill his hope of sweeping New England? Obviously, he did not. Did Bush hold the Republican votes as he has done throughout this campaign? He very much did. That's why he has won the lion's share of the primaries. Did Bush carry Republican women over McCain? Yes, he did. It was an important part of why he won the Republican vote in general. Was there a Catholic backlash against Bush because of the visit to Bob Jones University? As far as our exit polls can tell, very little. Now, did McCain win enough crossover votes in a state like Ohio, a state they desperately wanted to win? No. Bush won Ohio handily. Democrats tended to vote in the Democratic primary. What was the voter reaction to negative campaigns? Well, it was a negative reaction, but it seems to be much more negative about John McCain raising the issue than it was about George Bush for putting on allegedly negative commercials. And what about the Bush appeal to California Hispanics? Well, the lion's share of Hispanic vote in that blanket primary went to Al Gore, 54%. No surprise, because that's where Hispanics usually vote. Bush did beat McCain by a few points. To Wolf, I believe you are audio capable now.
If at first, Jeff, you don't succeed, try again. Let's take another look at the latest delegate count, the numbers that we have right now. First of all, let's go first to the Democratic side. To the Republican side. George W. Bush with 660 delegates of the 1,034 needed for the nomination. John McCain with 210 delegates right now with California. On the Democratic side, Al Gore with 1,294 delegates of the 2,170 needed for the nomination, 380 for Bill Bradley. Scott Reed, you spent time 4 years ago doing the Bob Dole campaign. What happens now? John McCain, we just heard him, the next 48 hours, walk us through behind the scenes what's going through that McCain camp.
Very split ideas. McCain needs to go spend some time at home with his wife, with his family, with some of his supporters. He'll reach out to his supporters and his leadership around the country. They need to make a big decision here in the next 48 hours. McCain is a man of action. He's a man that goes with his instincts. That's been his career for the last 18 years, a very successful career. I think you're going to see McCain make a very quick decision. I do not think he will let this linger on. He's a realist. He understands what he's up against. And the delegate count tonight is overwhelming Bush.
And if the numbers were bad for John McCain tonight, they could only get much worse next Tuesday.
Well, you go into next Tuesday where there's 6 primaries. They're all southern primaries. 3 of them are open, 3 of them are closed. States like Texas, Louisiana, which is part of Texas, Florida, those are going to be very difficult for him. Another 300 delegates that most of them could go towards Bush.
We did see George W. Bush tonight begin the process of trying to unite this Republican Party.
It's crucial. It's the most important thing George Bush can do right now. He has to reach out to the McCain followers. Another very important thing is to look at the U.S. Senate, where 38 of McCain's colleagues were with Bush. They need to embrace McCain now that it's over, welcome him back to the Senate, and understand that he's made a big contribution to this because, in a way, he's helped George Bush. He's taught George Bush how to go out and run a campaign and how to win. and it's made Bush a better candidate for the fall.
All right, Stuart Rothenberg, you've been looking at some of the non-presidential races. We've focused, of course, exclusively so far on the presidential contest, but there have been some non-presidential races that are of some interest out there.
Absolutely, Wolf. Let's run right through them. Let's start in Ohio with 2 congressional races. In battle, Democratic Congressman Jim Traficant represents a district in northeastern Ohio, the Youngstown area. He's faced a couple of credible primary opponents. It was thought that he might be knocked off. He has won. He has won renomination. Democrats complained that he voted too often with the Republicans. He's been dogged by legal issues, but he won renomination. Let's move south and west to Columbus. This is John Kasich's open congressional district. He is retiring. Republicans are concerned about the seat. Maybe they shouldn't be. This was a race where State Representative Pat Tiberi, the hand-picked candidate of Kasich, just absolutely pummeled State Senator Gene Watts. Watts ran as sort of a John McCain political outsider, and he did as well as John McCain did today, which is not very well. Tiberi's showing was so good it probably makes Republicans a bit more optimistic about his chances against the Democrat. In this case, it's Columbus City Council member Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy, an articulate Democrat, a good name in the area. But Tiberi's showing was quite good. In the Ohio Senate race, a Republican incumbent Senator Mike DeWine won renomination. He faced a one-term Congressman, Frank Cremains, complained that DeWine wasn't conservative enough. DeWine was one of the handful of Republican senators who endorsed John McCain. But DeWine won renomination easily, and he'll face Ted Celeste, a real estate broker who won the Democratic nomination. He's the brother of former Governor Richard Celeste. The Republicans are favored. And finally, in the California Senate race, of course, the Democrats have renominated Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's been a proven vote-getter. In fact, she's mentioned as a possible VP candidate down the road, should the Democrats decide to turn to a woman. And the Republicans have selected their candidate. This is Congressman Tom Campbell, a moderate Republican. He lost one statewide Republican primary once before. He won this one. He's a very credible candidate. He's an underdog, but he has the credentials.
All right, Stuart, and I just want to remind our audience that even though we are now estimating that George W. Bush will capture all 162 of California's Republican delegates, as far as the so-called beauty contest is concerned, the popular vote, we don't know yet. It's still too close to call in that important beauty contest, the popular vote in California. I want to bring Scott Reed back into this conversation. We're talking about some of these non-presidential races. In New York State, a huge Senate race, Mrs. Clinton, Rudy Giuliani. How is this result tonight going to play out in that contest?
There's a huge sigh of relief coming out of New York tonight, and if you listen carefully, it's coming out of Gracie Mansion, where Rudy Giuliani lives. He was very awkward last Friday, having to be out there campaigning with the rest of the Republican establishment against John McCain. You could see it in his body language. He did not like being there. He understands that if he's going to defeat Hillary Clinton, he has to run his own campaign on his issues in his way, and he cannot be involved in these other things. He's very glad this is over. It's going to be a very tight race, one of the tightest races in the country, because Hillary Clinton has a problem. She never polls above 41 or 42% of the vote. She's never gotten above that. There's a reason. She's not getting women voters. That's her goal. Rudy understands that, and it's going to be a tight race.
Stuart Rothenberg, you spent an enormous amount of time looking at the balance of power in the House of Representatives. The Republicans, of course, have a narrow majority right now. Any conclusions we can draw based on the results this evening, how that will impact perhaps on the balance in the House of Representatives?
Well, some very, very preliminary and tentative ones. Well, first of all, the Republicans are just happy. I think that this presidential race looks like it's over, and then maybe their party can come together. At this moment, it looks like the presidential contest is going to be close for November. It's hard to see any big partisan wave one way or the other for the Republicans or the Democrats. That means that House races will be fought out hand-to-hand combat, race to race, which should mean that the presidential race isn't a huge factor. However, and this is the big but, the House is so close right now in balance that if the presidential race affects 1 or 2 or 3 congressional districts, that could be enough to determine which party controls the House after November, and that would be a big deal.
All right, Stuart Rothenberg, thanks. Let's go back to Judy at the anchor desk.
And Wolf, I have a question for one of your folks over there, Scott Reed. Scott, you make the point that the Bush people, the McCain people are going to be looking for ways, potentially, after the senator has a chance to think things over, about how to come together. And yet, John McCain also made a huge point tonight of reform, being that reform must be the wave of the future for the Republican Party. George W. Bush has completely rejected campaign finance reform. How do those two ideas come together?
Well, I believe Bush has picked up on a small part of campaign finance reform. But look, McCain has been a big compliment to this whole race, and I believe the Bush team in Austin recognize that he's contributed, that some of his issues have resonated, and they're going to be doing everything they can in the next couple of weeks to unite the party. But a big first step of that is uniting with John McCain. There needs to be a visit. There needs to be a visit very soon. He needs to feel comfortable about how he's going to go through the next 3 weeks, and I think the folks in Austin recognize that.
Question, if I may, for either Stu or for Scott, this seems to reinforce a great Republican tradition. They pick a front runner, they beat him up early, either in Iowa or New Hampshire, and then they nominate him. It happened to Reagan in 80, Bush in 88, it almost happened to President Bush in 92, it happened to Dole in 96, and now it apparently has happened to Bush. Can you either explain what is this? Is this like an anthropological dance of the Republican Party? Hit him and then kiss him?
There's always going to be a tough fight for the nomination. I don't think anybody ever expected it was just going to be a layup for George Bush. I think last fall they got a little ahead of themselves and they started believing these artificial poll numbers that showed that he was invincible. Clearly McCain came on at the time. He was the flavor after a number of the other candidates dropped out. But again, this has been a healthy process for the Republican Party. It's made us a stronger party. There have been huge turnouts in a number of these states, 100% larger than they were in 1996. And ultimately, it'll be better for us as we go into the fall.
Jeff, I would simply add that the fact of the matter is that the Republicans once again have ultimately decided to nominate the front runner. That while the Democrats have in the past have gone for the insurgent candidate, have picked the George McGoverns of the world, the Republicans have once again gone with the obvious person, the person that led a year before, and I think that's significant.
Now, wait a minute. There's one element in all this discussion that we've not touched on. Stu, you alluded to the closeness of the general campaign affecting the people running for re-election in the House and whether that might tip the balance. But both to you, Stu and Scott, where does Governor Bush get coattails wide enough to bring these people in so that the Republicans retain control of the House and of the Senate, for that matter? And Scott, I noticed you've got a smile on your face.
Well, the way that Governor Bush is going to get coattails and the entire Republican Party is going to have coattails is if Bush goes out and talks about issues. This has to be an agenda-driven campaign. Republicans in Congress unfortunately sat around in December and January and said, well, let's wait for there to be a nominee, then we'll put together our agenda. That was a waste of a couple months. It looks like there now is a nominee. He has an agenda. He talked about it last year. He got off track in New Hampshire, got caught up talking about campaign tactics and process and all that. I think they learned a good lesson. But again, the only way they're going to be coattails is if there's a strong Republican agenda that the American people can understand. George Bush is capable of doing that.
All right, Scott Reed, Stu Rothenberg, and Wolf Blitzer. We're going to hear from you all a little bit later. Right now, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, two of our favorites, Tony Blankley and Mike McCurry. We'll be right back.
It came from nowhere, baptized today on the hot sands of Daytona, where a mile measures the length of your nerve. They call these giants 300.
4 decades later, their fuel-injected descendant has arrived.
She's got some real fire in her belly.
Chrysler 300M, the most powerful sports sedan in its class.
Well, I reckon a fella could get used to winning in this car.
Chrysler 300M. Car and Driver's 10 Best 2 years running.
And I had congestive heart failure, and everything that could go wrong did.
There are 3.5 million Americans with congestive heart failure.
It's so important for my son to have a grandfather.
It's a progressive disease, and it will ultimately result in death. We've actually developed a new medicine that can remove the death sentence from these patients.
I start feeling better.
I think we're going to see an explosion of new medicines that will treat diseases that before we couldn't treat.
So, you've managed to point and click your way into too much debt.
Why not point and click your way out of debt with a second mortgage from Ditech.com? Whether you have equity or no equity, good credit or not so good credit, Ditech has a second mortgage with absolutely no closing costs to help you lower your monthly payments now. So point and click your way out of high-interest, non-tax deductible credit card debt at Ditech.com.
Or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED. Ditech.com.
There's something you should know about your heart. Advances in nutrition, exercise, and technology can make it healthier than ever before. It's Healthy Heart Month, so visit WebMD to find out what can put your heart at risk. Take an online stress test or learn about the latest medical technology that's helping people live longer and healthier. Help your heart. Log on to WebMD.
Just before we go to Tony Blankley and Mike McCurry, I want to put some, perhaps, meat on the table for them to chew with. Maybe one of the most important numbers tonight we haven't reported is 550. That's the drop in the Dow just the last 2 days. And the point I think is on the table is if people begin to lack confidence that this economic boom continues, that doesn't sound like good news for Vice President Gore. Gentlemen, what think you of that, or take it on the direction you want?
Well, Jeff, that is a good point. Tony, we haven't talked a lot about the economy, the strength of it tonight, because that is ultimately peace, prosperity, the issues that define this tonight. But in a way, if you take what the snapshot of this whole long evening has been, it was the promise of the McCain-Bradley campaigns, the reform message they had, and what happened to it. It certainly did energize new voters. But at the end, the parties kind of turned back to their institutional leaders, the people who were more in the center. I think for Democrats, that stock market drop was a very discordant note. I've got to believe that for Republicans who now want to try to move back to the center, it must have been very disconcerting to see Pat Robertson be the first person out there declaring victory tonight.
Well, clearly the economy has been the premise of the Clinton presidency. It's the premise of the Gore election campaign. If the economy turns south, and we all hope it doesn't, then I think you have to completely recalculate what the Gore message is. But I think this evening we now have seen basically the candidates. And I think the most interesting event is that we now see that the Republican electorate has, for the 6th time since 1980, picked the same kind of a candidate. They had an opportunity with McCain to try to modify their strategy for winning an election. They're going to go for the 6th time with a right-of-center Reagan coalition anchored with very strong social conservatives as sort of the grassroots and the troops for them, and they're going to see if they can win one more time. I have a strong suspicion that if, in fact, that doesn't work in November, that the McCain formula, if not McCain himself, may well have another opportunity, just as Clinton did in '92 after the Democrats lost 3 consecutive presidencies.
I hate to agree with you, but there is an element of this electorate that still wants to see a new type of politics. I think Senator McCain was really right about that. And who claims that constituency, whether it's Governor Bush or Vice President Gordon, now really is going to tell the story of where we go in November. It is a long time now to the conventions and an even longer time to the national election. I got to believe that Democrats are going to be happy to see that number in the hypothetical race in California tonight, the Vice President beating Governor Bush 50-43.
Well, that wasn't much of a number for Gore, who's been out to California about, 87 times. But let me just briefly go over, I was taking some notes during the speeches, and Bush's speech was interesting in a couple of points. He emphasized education, immigration, Social Security, which are 3 issues that have not traditionally been Republican issues. So there's a little bit of movement from the traditional issue set. Education, we of course heard him talk about before. Immigration is a relatively new point, and I assume on Social Security that he's going to try to accuse the Clinton-Gore administration of failing for 8 years to start solving the problem that we all need to see solved. So you're seeing a little bit of assertiveness beyond the basic agenda, but you see the same theory of how you put together a coalition to win the election.
But you also see a strong party behind Al Gore. The Democratic National Committee is ready to go with a lot of money. I think that we're going to see this thing play out in the days ahead. Atlanta, back to you to close it out.
All right, Tony and Mike, and you were right to put the economic question on the table, because it turns out that that is going to be something that we're all thinking about. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a new hour of our Election 2000 coverage and a recap of where the vote stands at this hour. We'll be right back.
No one has
guy 5 minutes. He's already giving me investment advice.
For a recommendation on your portfolio, please press 3.
I'm gonna pay for this. What was I
Should
thinking?
my 401k be all stock? Should my 401k be all cash?
Why didn't they write this last month?
My portfolio should be overweighted in game companies.
Why does this guy think what works for him is gonna work for me?
Thank you, Painewebber.
Every part of your business can now benefit from the internet. Microsoft Windows 2000 was built for the internet. The business internet starts with Microsoft.
Greetings, television viewers. We are in the midst of a technological revolution, a time where anything as unbelievable as it may look or sound is possible. With that said, I'm here to tell you that you can have totally free internet service. That's right, read my lips. 100% free internet service. You never have to pay. Not now, not when pigs fly away, not ever. Good day.
What if you could identify the very best stocks in just minutes? Investors Business Daily does that for you every day with the all-new IBD Smart Select Corporate Ratings. Smart Select Ratings help you zero in on stocks with the strongest investment potential. Now you can quickly compare all stocks by 5 important ratings: earnings growth, price performance, industry performance, sales and profits, plus a rating that tells you if a stock is being heavily bought or sold by professional investors. 5 proprietary ratings to help you select stocks like the professionals do. Not only will you get a better reading on each stock, but IBD's Big Picture column interprets the key general market information for you each day. Call now, 1-800-943-6819, and receive 2 weeks of Investors Business Daily absolutely free, plus the free video maximizing your success. Call 1-800-943-6819 today and make investing easier.
Sunday, the Russians surprised the world and claimed victory in the opening event of the Great Space Race. Cold War continues Sunday.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Eddy, and I'd like to invite you to a concert on April 5th. I'm going to have a great band, some very special friends, and it's all for Chet Atkins Musician Days, right here at the Ryman Auditorium.
Join Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Dwayne Eddy and special guest for the Witness History Concert at the Ryman Auditorium. Brought to you by Intermedia, VH1 Save the Music, and these fine sponsors.
So come witness history with us. It's for a great cause, the musical education of our children.
How much does a dream cost? The dream of college for your child. The dream of being your own boss. The dream of retiring now. How much does a dream cost? It depends on how big you dream. Planning from First Tennessee. That's right, First Tennessee.
Be cool. Be cool about fire safety. Yeah, that's the rule. Hey, to be cool about fire safety.
The most important thing for you and your parents is to have an escape plan.
Have 2 ways out of your room or house in case one is blocked by fire. Have a meeting place outside of your house so everyone knows that no one is inside.
Practice the plan because just having a plan is no good if you don't practice it.
Gotta be cool. Be cool about fire safety.
Rita, we sure appreciate your business. Hope you enjoy these Winston tires, and we'll see you 5,000 miles for your first rotation.
Thank you, Steve. They really look great on my car, and I know I'll enjoy them.
I hope you will. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Hi, I'm Steve Bass from Steve Bass Tire. Through the months of February and March, we're offering great savings on the entire line of Winston high-performance radial tires. Winston tire quality and Bass Tire service, a winning combination every time. Ride the winner at Bass Tire.
Steve Bass Tire, 3015 Nolensville Road.
CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
A Super Tuesday sweep for Vice President Al Gore.
For George W. Bush, no sweep, but still a crushing set of victories.
from CNN election headquarters in Atlanta, this is CNN's coverage of Super Tuesday, the largest day of primary and caucus voting in the nation's history, with 16 states and 1 territory going to the polls and caucuses to select more than 1,900 Democratic and Republican convention delegates. Now, from the CNN anchor desk, here are Bernard Shaw, Judy Woodruff, and Jeff Greenfield.
Welcome back to our coverage. Now we want to take a look at one major part of the California puzzle. In the California nonpartisan primary votes, this is the way it looks. This is the latest information we have. Vice President Gore, 33%. Governor Bush has got 30%. And Senator McCain has 25%. This is the beauty contest. We're not able to make a call because of some large number of absentee votes that may be counted tomorrow. So far, Governor Bush has won these states. Look at them: California, Georgia, Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, New York, Ohio. Senator John McCain, this Super Tuesday night, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont. And quite a sweep for Vice President Al Gore. From California to New York, Connecticut, Georgia, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Rhode Island, and Vermont.
And Bernie, what we want to point out in those last few boards that we were looking at is that we have some new numbers. There were not only primaries held today across the United States, but caucuses held in several states, 5 states, plus the American territory of American Samoa. But the numbers we have right now: in Minnesota, a win for George Bush. There was just a Republican caucus there. And in the states of Idaho and North Dakota, there were Democratic caucuses. In both instances, Al Gore was the winner. And you saw those results reflected in the boards that Bernie was just reading.
And what's interesting about that is it marks a kind of historical footnote. Al Gore becomes the first non-incumbent of either party ever to win every contest for delegates that there was in his party's nomination procedure. Nobody has ever done that on the way to the nomination other than incumbent presidents who were unopposed.
And no wins tonight for Bill Bradley.
None, but he's winning delegates. One other thing on the caucuses, though, still outstanding: caucuses in Hawaii, caucuses in Washington State, Democrat and Republican, and, of course, American Samoa with a caucus. And, of course, what we don't report on tonight, our overnight staff and certainly CNN in the morning will have everything.
I plan to go